This is a demonstration of custom color palettes that you can now do with your color tool. You get to it by looking at a structure, right-clicking with your color tool, and then going down to Configure. This lets you pick any of the colors that you have and adjust them to anything you want. Up at the top, it'll tell you what structure you're looking at, so that if you're looking at the wrong thing, you know you're not going to edit the wrong thing. First, we'll talk about the hide button. You can hide the whole palette so that you can see what you're adjusting. It's quite useful. For instance, if I pick this color, hide the palette, and then start messing with the color, you can see it change on the ship in front of me. Now, there's two sets of sliders. There's the hue, saturation, value sliders, and then the red, green, blue sliders. If you're unfamiliar with these, they behave differently, but they both edit the same color that you're working on. For instance, hue lets you go through all the spectrum from red and greens and blues, and then saturation allows you to adjust how much of the color is present. If you go all the way down to the bottom, it turns gray, and this is how you get to your gray spots. If you go all the way up to the top, then it's solid color. So in the middle, it's kind of grayish. The value is basically brightness. It goes down to black and then all the way up to really bright. So that's hue, saturation, and value. The red, green, and blue also do the same thing, but you're mixing red, green, and blue together. So if, for instance, this color looked a bit too red, I can adjust out some of the red or add some more of it, and then that adjusts the slider so that it gets to just the right color you want. And that's pretty much the sliders. You can punch in the numbers directly as well, like if you're going off of a color sheet and you wanted to punch in the red, green, blue numbers, they go from 0 to 255, and you can usually find those on wikis and other color tone palettes and things like that from graphic programs if you really want to get that nitpicky about a specific color, or you can just eyeball it like I do. So when you pick these colors, you can adjust them, every single one of them, except this upper left corner, because this is the applied default color and you can't really change it, even though the sliders show you it doesn't change it. And the next thing you can do with all these colors is you can copy and paste them. If you select one, you can copy it and then paste it over to another slot. Maybe make that same color a little brighter, and you can make kind of a grayscale or multiple gradients of the same color. It's quite helpful, as well as if you wanted to move a couple, you can hold the shift key down and grab a bunch, copy all three of these, and then we can paste them over here and it puts them down here. You can also do that by copying an entire palette if you wanted to do that. The other thing that is with the palettes is these tabs at the top. These are temporary. They only last for the game you're playing, so if you quit out, you're going to lose all these up here. And they're basically clipboards, and they're multiple. It's helpful if you want to go between ships and copying a whole palette to another ship, because current is always the ship you're looking at, or base. And so, for instance, number 1 is the default palette, and the button apply to current will reset it back to that default. The preset button allows you to pick one of 2 different default palettes. There's the one that we've known forever, this color palette, and then there's the second one, which is a much more duller type. So if we apply that and take a look at the ship, it's a totally different color ship. So let's go back to the default, and now let's take a look at a different ship here, because all 3 of these ships are the exact same thing, but they all have different color palettes, and it makes them look differently. So this one, I blacked out everything except the colors that are being used, and then change just a few of them. So if I wanted to copy this whole set, I can select them all and then copy and stick it in here in number 1, and then go to this one, select all of those and copy and stick it into number 2. So now I've got all 3 temporary color palettes here. If I go back to the first one, there's this palette that I'm looking at current, number 1, which is copied from the second ship, and number 2 is copied from the other ship. So if I wanted to make the ship I'm looking at in front with this color palette, I can apply to current, and now you can see this ship looks just like that one because I copied its color palette over to it. That's what these little tabs up here, they allow you to do pretty easily, and it's a very helpful thing. However, you can't really save palettes for later, so you have to apply it to a blueprint and save your blueprint, then you can pull the palette off, but that might change in the future. This is pretty much the demonstration of how to change colors to what you would like, and it's fairly easy once you get the hang of these sliders. The variations is infinite, of course. You can pick any of the millions of colors that are present through the RGBs, and then have fun with coloring all your ships and bases the way you'd like them to be.